Americano cannot seem to stop. Thanks for the catchphrase, by the way. And we'll be revisiting them today. No paleo bingo this time around. Anyways, enjoy.
For millions of years, dinosaurs were the dominant species on the planet.
Okay, that statement, I'll let it pass. It's fine. You know, I shouldn't expect that much coming from whatever this video I'm revisiting. This is a revisit of a video called the worst paleontology video ever uploaded to YouTube. It's on my channel. It's made by Americano once again, and I was just reviewing it. I'm going to review it once again.
They came in all shapes and sizes, from the smallest scavengers to giant, slow-moving herbivores.
Jurassic Park raptors, especially blue, by the looks of it. Blue. A lot of people really like blue.
But this wasn't a time for the weak, with predators sporting the biggest teeth ever and prey that could defend themselves with giant bony clubs. Threats came from every direction. Get ready to run for your life because these are the 15 most dangerous dinosaurs in the world. Number 15, T-Rex.
Now, I was infuriated by the fact that T-Rex was at number 15, and a bunch of other creatures that are less dangerous than the T-Rex appeared above the T-Rex, but to be fair to Americano, let's give Americano credit this time. They are probably not they're probably not putting them in any specific order at all, just random stuff, and T-Rex just so happened to be the first one.
The Tyrannosaurus rex is probably the most famous species of dinosaur that ever lived.
T-Rex, an evolutionary journey. T-Rex is just a complete joke to other T-Rexes and should be put in a hall of shame.
They lived between 68 and 66 million years ago.
Okay, this one is correct. I'll leave that alone.
On an island continent called Laramidia.
Alright, Americano got it correct once again. T-Rex did live in Laramidia, not Appalachia. As you can see by the looks of it, this video is definitely catered towards the general mainstream that doesn't really know any better besides awesome bro dinosaur action, or Peachits in general.
Which has since broken up and became what is now the western side of North America. Based on complete fossils that have been found, they stood up to 40 feet tall.
Oh man, now I'm glad that I revisited this video, because 40 feet tall, bro, meant 40 feet long. The fact that this guy said the T-Rex is 40 feet tall just implies that the T-Rex could have been like, I don't know, around 100 feet long. That estimate genuinely reminded me of that Indominus 2.0 screenshot that is at the same time incredibly oversized and has an uncreative name.
And weighed as much as 15 tons.
I doubt any T-Rex could have reached like even 13 tons in general. The absolute maximum right now is a specimen called Goliath, which is over 12 tons. An average T-Rex would have been close to around 9 or so.
They walked on 2 legs and had huge heads, so much so that they needed large tails to help balance properly.
Which is correct. The tails are there to help Rexes balance when standing on the ground, but only when the Rexes are standing parallel with the ground.
They had short but powerful arms.
I'm pretty sure the main use of these small arms is in territorial disputes in which they are meant to prevent other T-Rexes from biting them.
With toe-clawed fingers. And even though they weren't necessarily the largest of dinosaurs of their kind—
Wrong. T-Rex was the largest theropod dinosaur to have ever lived, and Basically, the largest terrestrial predator to have ever lived.
They probably had the most powerful bite by far. They would have been the apex predators in the region at the time.
This only applies to adults, because juveniles are pursuit predators that hunt smaller prey like Ornithomimus, Pachycephalosaurus, and Anzu.
And preyed on smaller and less aggressive species.
Man, can we just look at the definition of the apex predator, please? So, an apex predator is a predator at the top of the food chain without natural predators of its own. Although, to be fair, the T-Rex probably hunted weaker members of the Triceratops, Ankylosaurus, and Monosaurus, and as well as juvenile sauropods, probably. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't want to take on full-grown, healthy adult herbivores, because they are incredibly dangerous.
Since they've never been observed in the wild, though.
Also, while this guy is talking about T-Rex, he showed the Indominus Rex from Jurassic World Evolution. This is just an incredibly laughable moment.
There's also the suggestion that they may have been scavengers.
Which is Jack Horner's completely baseless theory, as there is evidence of healed bite marks from a Tyrannosaurus on herbivores.
And opportunistically fed on the carcasses of other dinosaurs that had already died.
I mean, the T-Rex could scavenge dead sauropod bodies and all that, but like, the T-Rex would have also been a predator too. T-Rex was both a hunter and a scavenger when it needed to be.
Either way, from the approximately 50 T-Rex specimens that have been found so far, one thing's for sure. They were extremely dangerous, and we wouldn't have stood a chance against one.
Of course, painting the Rexes as if they're just bloodthirsty monsters all fighting to the death. Man, this is just a common misconception. I'll probably make a video addressing common misconceptions about, like, herbivores or so.
If we had been unfortunate to be alive at the same time. Before we go on, we have a cool challenge for y'all that will take 5 seconds to complete. Let's make a deal. Just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and you will get 10 years of amazing luck and fortune. Try it. It actually works.
How about liking this video and subscribing to my channel instead, because I actually try and do something to educate you guys instead of Americano, which doesn't really make much of an effort. Subscribing is free anyway, and you can always change your mind later. Anyways, back to the video.
Number 14. Sinosauropteryx.
Unlike last time, I'm not going to break my table in rage because the Sinosauropteryx is based above the T-Rex. I said before that I believe that this video, these creatures are not placed in any particular order, it's just random.
The Sinosauropteryx, which means Chinese reptilian wing, is a species of dinosaur that was first described in 1996.
Which, I can confirm that's the case, the Sinosauropteryx prima. Fun fact, there is a second species of Sinosauropteryx described in 2025, Sinosauropteryx linguanensis, but as of the video making of that video, we're going to review... Oh my god. As of the time the video was made, Sinosauropteryx linguanensis was not described yet, so Americano gets yet another free pass.
And lived in the region of what is now northeastern China during the Cretaceous period.
More specifically, during the Barremian age of the early Cretaceous, 124.6 to 122 million years ago. Not that venomous Sinosauropteryx from plant dinosaur, although to be fair, that is probably the only, the only dinosaur documentary that features a Sinosauropteryx.
Around 140 million years ago. It's the first species of non-avian dinosaur that is known to have been covered with feathers.
You know, it's a good time to revisit this paleontology video, because I forgot how terrible it was.
Although they weren't feathers like we know from birds in modern times, but were instead filament-like structures that gave them a level of temperature regulation. They had strangely small arms and very long tails.
Okay, that claim is true. There's no doubt about it.
and, based on limited specimens that have been found, were 3.5 feet long and weighed around 1.5 pounds.
Around the acceptable estimate, it's around 1.2 to 2.2 pounds.
They were carnivores, and since specimens have been found with the remnants of lizards and mammals in their guts, they would certainly have attacked and eaten anything of a similar size.
That's if they're hungry. If they're not hungry, then why bother wasting energy? Like how iPad Airs are draining batteries faster than their base iPad counterparts.
Interestingly, there's also evidence that they ate venomous animals too.
Which now is considered outdated, as you can see here.
So they may have even had a natural immunity to certain toxins. Sinosauropteryx are also thought to have been pack hunters.
Yet there's no evidence of them hunting in packs. Ironically, there is more evidence of T-Rex cooperating than raptors and especially Sinosauropteryx.
And large groups would have been able to collectively take down animals much larger than themselves, and as a group were one of the most dangerous animals to have ever lived.
This is just another vague statement of just Sinosauropteryx being dangerous, super dangerous, one of the most dangerous, and there's really not much else to say about it other than it's vague and it just leaves out a lot of other creatures.
Number 13. Liopleurodon.
Are you going to make this thing 25 meters long, which is actually considered an outdated estimate instead of a ridiculous estimate like the Paleo Bingo stated?
The Liopleurodon was a species of aquatic plesiosaur.
I can confirm that the Liopleurodon is indeed a plesiosaur. But then there's the title, which deliberately said that it's supposed to be the 15 most dangerous dinosaurs in the world, yet the Liopleurodon is not a dinosaur. So we've been clickbaited, we've been misled.
That swam in the world's oceans during the late Jurassic period, around 160 million years ago.
Instead, you could just show a pliosaur or something, instead of an actual long-necked elasmosaur-esque animal.
They were undoubtedly the apex predators of their time.
Back then, the T-Rex segment, bro just showed Kronosaurus from Plant Dinosaur. Now this guy is showing an elasmosaur. An elasmosaur, and talking about a Liopleurodon, which is a pliosaur.
And are thought to have grown to up to 21 feet in length.
Which, ironically, is actually correct. It's actually quite accurate.
Although there are some indications that individuals could be as much as 4 times this size.
Which is based on the Walking with Dinosaurs 25-meter long Liopleurodon.
They are believed to have usually weighed around 2.5 tons.
An average one would have been okay. The largest one had a length of approximately 8 meters with a body mass of 7.8 tons, as you can see here. But, I don't want to glaze like Vividin does, so.
And were essentially twice the size of a great white shark. Researchers first became aware of the species in 1873, when 3 teeth were found.
Yes, it was described in 1873, but it was first discovered in 1838 by a large tooth, as you can see here. We got 1841 and 1852 as well. Jesus.
And it was based on these that the name was given, which means smooth-sided teeth. Further discoveries have shown them to have a row of razor-sharp teeth, however, each of which were 3 inches long.
Okay, I can also confirm this.
And would have meant that these fierce carnivores would have made light work of anything in the ocean. So much so, they wouldn't have thought twice about attacking anything that was bigger. Even though they probably, usually, targeted medium-sized fish and crustaceans.
Okay. That statement is okay. But the previous statements are just completely and utterly ludicrous and just... Did this guy watch Jurassic Fight Club?
Number 12. Ankylosaurus.
At least we've got an herbivore here. Alright.
The The chances are that you've heard of an Ankylosaurus, as they were the dinosaurs that were covered in armor plating and had a huge club on the end of their tails.
Man, Jurassic World Evolution and Ankylosaurs are just incredibly inaccurate. Ankylosaurus is just... I don't even know how to describe this Ankylosaurus bump at this point. It's just wrong. Ankylosaurus should be more, well, flat, as you can see here.
They lived during the end of the Cretaceous period between 68 and 66 million years ago.
Alright, this is correct.
And their remains have been found across North America.
Correct again? Okay.
Surprisingly, for such a well-known species, a full fossil has never been found. Because of this, everything we know is based upon partial specimens.
Okay, this, once again, there's really nothing wrong with this statement, as you can see here. But, you know, showing those clips that are just completely gamified, man.
But researchers are fairly certain that they grew to around 26 feet long,
which for an Ankylosaurus is much more on the upper end, actually.
And weighed up to 8 tons.
At the upper end, once again, it could have reached like 5 or so at average. Largest ones could have reached over 9 tons.
As well as the easily identifiable features, they also had huge horns that pointed back from their heads, and another set of horns that pointed downwards beneath them.
These are meant to protect the Ankylosaurus, whatever pronunciation is, whatchamacallit's small head, which can get crunched by the T-Rex if there isn't much armor.
Their noses faced sideways, and they had a break over their mouth.
You serious?
To have so much armor, Ankylosaurus must have been very strong and muscly.
I won't doubt this, and the Ankylosaurus also has to swing its club tail around, even though it's definitely not as flexible as shown over here and in Jurassic World Evolution.
And would have been able to wield their tails with brutal effectiveness. Just one strike with this devastating weapon would have been enough to instantly kill most predators.
In terms of something as gigantic and robust as the Tyrannosaurus, it probably wouldn't kill it in one shot. It would just be completely ridiculous. However, it would definitely handicap the T-Rex, making it much less be able to hunt.
And, if not, severely injure them. Number 11, Sarcosuchus.
At least it's better than the scary tourist pronunciation, even though this pronunciation is also really bad.
The Sarcosuchus, which means flesh crocodile, was an early ancestor of today's crocodiles that lived during the early Cretaceous period around 120 million years ago.
Which is around the acceptable estimate. It lived around 130 to 112 million years ago during the late Hadrian to early Albian ages of the early Cretaceous.
It was one of the largest crocodilians to ever walk the planet.
The problem with this statement is that the Sarcosuchus is not even a crocodilian, it's just a crocodilomorph.
And could grow to more than 30 feet long, and weigh as much as 3.5 tons.
Okay, these statements, I don't really have that much problem with it. The largest specimen, of course, it's right in the upper end.
2 species have been found, one that lived in modern-day Brazil, and the other whose remains have been found across Africa. It was only by the year 2000 that enough specimens had been found to fully describe them. And they had some noticeable differences to what we think of with crocodiles. Their top jaws were significantly stronger than their lower jaws,
which means they actually resemble more like gharials than crocodiles.
for example, and they would have preyed on aquatic animals, as well as venturing onto land to hunt smaller species of dinosaur.
Once again, the time-traveling Sarcosuchus from Planet Dinosaur appears in this channel. Man, it's just a recurring occurrence at this point. It's like a whole lot of other clips that contain the Sarcosuchus.
Curiously, their physiology suggests they wouldn't have been able to perform the so-called death roll that crocodiles use to dismember their prey, so would have either had an alternative technique to perform the same task, or simply swallowed everything whole.
Or just rip chunks off prey one by one, like most predators do. Man, it's just... What even is this video supposed to be talking about?
Number 10. Allosaurus.
It's like the narrator isn't even trying anymore. I don't blame him. Bro has to read a not super paleo-accurate script and just doesn't even get satisfied in general.
The Allosaurus was a carnivorous dinosaur that lived during the late Jurassic period around 150 million years ago.
Okay, it's around the acceptable estimate. It lived from 155 million years ago to the very end of the Jurassic.
Their remnants have been found in the fossil-rich regions of North America and were first discovered in Colorado in 1869.
And Americano is correct once again. I can confirm this, but once again, it's just a bunch of fact yapping, and it doesn't really show why it's scary. It's just random.
There are actually 6 different known species of Allosaurus.
I don't see 6 species. I only see 3 before Americano made this video. Allosaurus annex can be exempted. Man, I still genuinely hate the fact that this guy, when talking about the Allosaurus, showed a Kronosaurus attacking a Sinosauropteryx from Fallen Kingdom. Out of every single clip, bro just chose that. Do y'all have any shame?
Our men are running from the battlefield! Shame for this place!
All of which had very unusual vertebrae, which is why the name means different lizard. They walked on 2 legs and were up to 31 feet long in most cases.
More like 28 feet long, although to be fair, larger specimens have reached 31 feet.
Although some fossil specimens have suggested they could be up to 45 feet long.
Let me tell you right now that not even Allosaurus annex reached that long. I'm guessing this is where Brightside got their source from. Just 2 bros. 2 best friends just spreading misinformation together.
They most likely weighed several tons, and were probably the apex predators of the time.
Once again, the Torvosaurus is crying in the corner,
preying on most of the other large dinosaur species. They are known to have hunted Stegosaurus,
which is correct. There is evidence of Allosaurus hunting the Stegosaurus.
For example, after an Allosaurus tail vertebrae was found with a puncture wound that's the shape of the spike from a Stegosaurus tail.
Ah, so are you just going to downplay the Allosaurus threat instead of making it oh so scary?
There have also been some examples of 2 specimens being found very close to each other.
You can't keep getting away with it! You can't keep getting away with it!
This video still stands out because of its doubling down on those crazy footage mistakes that are just incredibly avoidable. There are so many Allosaurus clips,
which has led researchers to suspect they may have been pack hunters.
Here goes Americano, assuming that once something is found in, once something in the same species is found together, like in groups of like 6, 7 or more, they just automatically assume they hunted in packs, when in reality it could have either just been loose gangs or a predator trap,
which would have made them even more deadly. This could instead be a sign that they fought with each other, however. So it's hoped that future discoveries may once and for all solve the question of whether they had a complex social hierarchy or not. Number 9. Troodon.
To be fair, Troodon probably still existed when the video was made, but it's just incredibly outdated now, and as of 2025, Troodon does not exist. Oh, never mind. Troodon probably still exists.
The bird-like Troodon formosus was one of the first dinosaur species to be found in North America.
Man, everything. This video is just the epitome of how to make a bad paleontology video. Use Jurassic World clips. Throw in some ridiculous estimates that don't seem super ridiculous, but like, man, this video is just classic, just absolutely classic bad.
When paleontologists dug up a set of fossils in Montana in 1855. For more than 20 years, they were thought to be a large species of lizard.
Still facts that have nothing to do with this video. Man, when can all this stop for once?
From more recently. But as more became known about the deposit where the fossils were found, it became clear that they were a species of dinosaur that were dated to a specific time during the Cretaceous period, around 77 million years ago.
Which, in the grand scheme of things, I will accept it. Alright? The Troodon lived 77.5 to 76.5 million years ago.
The name quite ominously means wounding tooth, and this is in reference to their sharp and serrated teeth that would have been used to inflict serious damage on their prey.
I wouldn't call the Troodon killing the Dilophosaurus here serious damage to prey. It's a serious damage to a competitor.
And were likely powerful enough to tear chunks of flesh, while the victim was very much
what? Very much being disrespected by Troodon's moms?
Their geographical spread meant that, depending on where they were, they had slight differences according to climate. Those in colder regions, for example, were several feet taller than their 4 or 5 foot long cousins.
I can't really judge it because this is incredibly unclear. Again, incredibly vague, so I can't really review if it's correct or not.
From more temperate climates, and it's even thought that the amount of feather covering they had would alter based on how warm they needed to be.
I would word it at based on the temperature of their environment.
It's not clear if they were ferocious carnivores or scavengers, or even if they worked together in groups, but you certainly wouldn't have wanted to come across one if it was feeling hungry.
Okay, good point, Americano. Because if a carnivore isn't really hungry, it's not really going to do that much. Well, it might hunt its competitors, kill its competitors. Not really hunting, just kill its competitors, and just doesn't even bother to eat them.
Number 8. Kronosaurus.
Kronosaurus is potentially dubious once again, but I'm willing to bet that this thing actually existed. Well, my comments say maybe. So, I'm just going to hold off Kronosaurus does not exist theory.
The Kronosaurus was a type of short-necked plesiosaur that swam in the world's oceans during the early Cretaceous period around 140 million years ago.
Which is just wrong. The earliest time the Kronosaurus lived in is 125 million years ago.
2 different species have so far been discovered, one whose fossils were unearthed in Australia, and the other that was found in Colombia.
Okay, wasn't it just from Australia? I don't remember it being Colombia.
They grew to up to 36 feet long and are believed to be one of the largest plesiosaurs ever.
Okay, once again, there's really not much wrong about these statements. Which is kind of a shame, honestly. Always have to infect myself with boredom. I've basically ran out of clips at this point, man. It's just absolutely dreadful. Dreadful!
The name means Lizard of Kronos, in reference to the leader of the Greek Titans. They had long heads and a large rigid body.
You call these hands?
Their 4 flippers were how they swam through the water, and they had sharp conical teeth for tearing into flesh. Most specimens had teeth that were up to 3 inches long.
This manga person just clearly encapsulates my feelings watching this whole video. having to sit through this entire video once again.
But some examples have been found that are a terrifying 12 inches long.
Much as I want to say this is ridiculous, it isn't.
They probably weighed anything up to 14 tons.
Which, okay, it could have been possible, but it's just not very likely.
And because they were lizards, would have had to return to the surface every few hours to fill their large lungs with oxygen.
I wouldn't really call it a lizard, I would just call it a marine reptile.
At the time this species was alive, there's no other known creature that was anywhere near the same size. Kronosaurus was, therefore, the dominant predator, and would have made light work of anything they came up against.
Including a giant sauropod? Okay then.
Number 7. Amphicoelias fragilimus.
Which is just incredibly outdated. Now the Amphicoelias fragilimus is now called the Marapunisaurus fragilimus.
We normally think of the carnivorous dinosaurs as the most dangerous, but spare a thought for the herbivores, because with their extreme size and weight, they could certainly put up a good fight.
Okay, at least this guy acknowledges that herbivores can fight back, unlike a certain someone. Roll the clip.
Unfortunately, in comparison with meat-eaters, herbivore dinosaurs were much weaker. Herbivore dinosaurs were much weaker. Herbivore dinosaurs were much weaker.
The Amphicoelias fragilimus is a great example of this.
Okay, to cut Americano some slack again, there really is no Amphicoelias fragilimus or Marapunisaurus fragilimus clips, just a bunch of pictures and that's it.
As they were a leaf-eating species that lived around 150 million years ago.
Okay, I can confirm this, and also this.
During the late Jurassic period. Found in what is now known as North America, they were related to the more well-known Diplodocus.
Both of them are Diplodocids, the Amphicoelias altus and the Marapunisaurus fragilimus.
And were a similar size at an estimated 82 feet long.
It's actually now more moderated at 18 meters long, 59 feet. Marapunisaurus, on the other hand, could have reached around like 89 feet. Or is this guy gonna pull out the 60-meter long estimate?
They weighed more though, with a theoretical mass of up to 20 tons.
It depends on who you ask, really. If it's the Amphicoelias, it's fine. If it's the Marapunisaurus, it's too light. And the Amphicoelias, well, it's probably around the upper end.
Which would have required incredibly powerful legs and tail muscles to support. Once fully grown, very few other dinosaurs would have messed with them.
You know, at least show a Apatosaurus or a Diplodocus instead of a Macronarian like these. Like, there's multiple Macronarians over here.
Their tail whip alone would have caused huge damage.
They wouldn't do that without breaking their own tail. Instead, they would just simply crush with their feet and just under their own weight.
And they'd likely have been able to throw any predators free of them without much effort.
For adults, yes. For juveniles that haven't fully grown yet, they can be hunted. And very few sauropod babies survive to adulthood, man.
This was fortunate because they wouldn't have been able to move very quickly, at just a few miles per hour. And because of their weight and the way they walked, other animals would have felt faint trembles in the ground for up to a quarter of a mile away.
I'm guessing this is just speculation. Then again, sauropods don't really have to be quiet, but at the same time, their foot padding makes their force more evenly distributed, so it could be a bit quieter.
Number 6. Velociraptor. Probably one of the most renowned dinosaurs of the time, velociraptors were a pack-hunting species that, when working together, could have felled virtually any large dinosaur.
There's really no way that raptors, even a group of them, would want to take on a full-grown Pteranodon. Americanos just smoked a bunch of crack when making this statement. Like I said before in my previous review of this video, I don't know why this guy is obsessed with pack hunting. Like, small creatures, smaller creatures, just anything that's found in groups is just automatic pack hunting, man. According to this guy, at least.
They lived during the later stages of the Cretaceous period, around 73 million years ago.
Okay, this statement is fine. I'll accept it. It lived around 75 to 71 million years ago, so 73 million years ago is just in the middle.
And there are actually two distinct species that we know of, both of which have been found in China and Mongolia. This means they wouldn't have ever come face to face with a T-Rex.
Of course you're slapping a T-Rex randomly because it's the most popular dinosaur of them all. At this point, the T-Rex is basically just the Superman of non-avian dinosaurs because the T-Rex is mentioned like every single millisecond.
For example. And they were very different from how they're portrayed in movies.
Okay, Americano acknowledges that at least. I'm guessing the reason why they showed the Jurassic World Evolution Raptor at the start is to hook people's attention. Because, you know, it's supposed to be a retention video to get more views, to get more casual viewers and all that.
Velociraptors were more like the size of a turkey, and would have been no more than 4 feet tall. Fossil evidence now suggests that they were feathered, and they probably weighed no more than 30 pounds.
You're just contradicting yourself once again by showing a non-feathered dromaeosaur, it seems like a velociraptor, when you're talking about velociraptors being feathered in actuality.
Despite their size, they were fast and had a powerful bite. They had extremely sharp serrated teeth that were curved to allow them to bite into something and hold on tight.
Okay, I'll also leave this statement alone. Alright, let's just move on once again. We're getting close to finishing this review once again, so let's just continue on.
They also had hands with 3 sharp claws, and it's thought that they would have dug into their prey, and it's thought that they would have dug into their prey, and it's thought that they would have dug into their prey.
I felt actual physical pain when the scaly velociraptor disemboweled a protoceratops over here
with their teeth and slashed away with their claws until their victim lacked the energy to keep on fighting.
Or just use raptor prey restraint to pin down their prey. Oh man. This disemboweling theory is just... it's so classic, yet so outdated, yet so many people still listen to that theory instead of doing some research and reading papers and all that.
Number 5, Azhdarchid.
What's Azhdarchid? Are you talking about something as gigantic as a Sarcosuchus? Or are you talking about something much smaller like an Alanka?
During the Cretaceous period between 140 and 70 million years ago...
Aw, man. Way too broad. Although, to be fair, they aren't 100% ridiculous with it, but it's still kind of sad.
Azhdarchid were a type of pterosaur, and some of them were the largest known flying creatures of all time.
If you're talking about the Sarcosuchus, yes, you're correct.
The name has its roots in the Persian word of Azdar, which was a legendary dragon-like creature.
Once again, snoring as this guy just yaps about random facts.
And they were probably the closest nature has ever come to a true menace of the skies. They had very long legs, and necks had large heads and jaws like spears.
That only applies to something like a Quetzalcoatlus. That doesn't apply to something like a Sarcosuchus. Sarcosuchus had much more of a blunt beak.
It's quite possible they could use these to pierce the skin or armor of their prey, and then transport it to their nest where they could take more time to devour it. Due to their size, they probably didn't spend much time in the air and are thought to have lived lives more similarly to the way storks and hornbills do today. In other words, standing on the ground and using their powerful eyesight to scour the surroundings for their next potential meal.
I have basically slept through the entire day after watching this whole segment. After you sit through this whole segment, I don't even know what to say anymore. It's just a bunch of fat yapping and a bunch of random stuff, and it's just a bunch of not dinosaur stuff, man.
Most would have eaten small dinosaurs and recently hatched young, but the larger species of Azhdarchidae would have been one of the dominant predators and taken anything but the largest of land animals. The biggest ones had wingspans of up to 66 feet.
What the fucking fuck? That is not okay!
Once again, this is probably an outdated estimate, but did this guy predict the Quetzalcoatlus from Dominion? Yeah, it's not ridiculous per se. It's just kind of outlandish.
And would have dwarfed most other dinosaurs
We're not shown in Azhdarchid.
across modern-day Romania and Germany, where their remains have been found. Number 4, Pelagornis sanders.
Man, where did the eye go? Where did the eye go after Sanders? Is it secretly the long-lost sibling of Bernie Sanders?
Only one specimen of Pelagornis sanders has ever been found, but based on its fossil, it was the second largest bird to have ever lived.
Okay, that statement is partially correct. It is the second largest flying bird to have ever lived, behind the Argentavis. It, however, has the longest wingspan above the Argentavis.
With a wingspan of up to 24 feet, it was twice the size of the largest birds that are around today.
Man, size is determined by mass, not length. It's just completely stupid at this point.
But there's a lot that researchers are yet to understand about this species. They lived during the Oligocene period around 25 million years ago.
Okay, this statement is fine. I'll leave it alone once again.
And appear to have weighed as much as 80 pounds.
You said 80 pounds, yet the text shows 88 pounds. Is it some sort of misreading or something?
Which means it's not entirely clear how they were able to fly.
Argentavis glides. So I'm going to say that Pelagornis sandersi would also glide.
Because this would make them too heavy to lift into the air under our current understanding of the way flight in nature works. They had what are known as pseudo-teeth on their bills, which are particularly effective at piercing and holding onto slippery prey.
Okay, this is fine. And also, the Pelagornis is a dinosaur, so it can be included here. If this video does not want to be clickbait, at least.
So most likely lived on a diet made up of entirely fish. Pelagornis sanders would have been an awesome creature to see in flight.
Especially according to Bernie Sanders, who will see his long-lost sibling in the form of a bird.
And undoubtedly ruled the skies. Quite why they died out, and why no birds of this size are alive today, is not yet clear, but it's hoped future discoveries of the species may help to understand the mystery.
Survival of the fittest. Just Darwin's theory all over again. Darwin's evolution theory is just universal at this point. Just apply it to literally every single freaking animal. Well, it got abused by, like, politics, but we're not going to be talking about that.
Number 3. Pterodactylus antiquus. With a name that means winged finger, the Pterodactylus antiquus may not immediately strike fear into your mind.
Or it could just swarm like a swarm of bees. I mean, for most people, that would be even more terrifying. I don't know how you wouldn't just think of it as just more terrifying than a bee or something, than a bee swarm. just a swarm of Pterodactylus. Even though what I said could be just incredibly incorrect.
And even though they were fairly small pterosaurs, they would have been a force to reckon with in large groups.
Showing Pteranodon instead of Pterodactylus. What are you trying to reference? Jurassic Park builder? And by the way, what is this guy and his obsession with small creatures working together to bring down a much larger creature?
They lived during the late Jurassic period around 150 million years ago.
Okay, this statement is fine, alright? To give Americano more credit, there really isn't any Pterodactylus clips, just Pteranodon, Dimorphodon, Azhdarchid, and a bunch of others, but no Pterodactylus.
And their fossils have been found in Germany, elsewhere in Europe, and in Africa. Their 90 sharp teeth, perfect for tearing flesh, show that they were carnivores.
We're shown a super inaccurate Quetzalcoatlus. This is just... What is this video supposed to be about anymore? I don't think this video even has an identity. It basically is just a midlife crisis of a paleontology video.
And it's believed they preyed mainly on fish and small animals. There's evidence to suggest that in times of need, however, they would group up in flocks and take on much larger dinosaurs.
That's if they have the mentality of Jurassic Fight Club Allosaurus. The battles there are genuinely the worst I've ever seen in a paleo documentary. Why did those Allosaurs just not eat the dead creatures and just go straight after the bull Camarasaurus, which just kills them?
With some remnants of bigger specimens have been found with Pterodactylus antiquus beak marks in their bones. They had a wingspan of between 3 and 4 feet.
Okay, that statement, I'll leave that alone, but we're shown Quetzalcoatlus once again. It's like showing a tiger when talking about a snow leopard.
And claws on their feet that were several inches long. There was a crest on their beaks made from soft tissue that probably served as a function in mating rituals. And unusually, it's thought that they could be nocturnal or diurnal depending on when the food in the region was most plentiful. Number 2, Pteranodon longiceps.
It's called the Pteranodon. The pronunciations are just, again, subpar. Not the worst I've ever seen, but definitely subpar.
The Pteranodon longiceps was, for many decades, the largest known species of pterosaur after being first discovered in 1871 in Kansas.
At least bro didn't call it a dinosaur, but this is not a dinosaur after all, so why put it in a dinosaur video?
They had a wingspan of a whopping 20 feet and had a backward pointing crest that formed the basis of what we usually think a flying dinosaur looks like.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
They lived around 85 million years ago when the central US was covered in water.
Okay, this one is fine. Once again, man.
Pteranodon longiceps is thought to have spent the vast majority of their lives flying over the water in search of fish and other potential food.
I'm guessing Americano is now going to try and come up with some stuff to make it look more terrifying.
And rarely ever went back to land apart from the breed.
Ah, so you're just going to allow it to waste all of its energy and then die of exhaustion, overexertion like The Sims.
When they needed a break or wanted to eat whilst not airborne, they would have landed on the water and floated on the current until it was time to fly again.
How about on land? It would be safer and less turbulent. I don't think a pteranodon would want to sleep on water risking drowning.
This maneuver probably wasn't the easiest of things, and simulations suggest they would have had to hop and splash about for a few moments until they were able to generate enough lift. While they didn't have any teeth, they certainly had a mean attitude and would harass larger animals by flying around them and violently flapping their wings.
Instead, all you've been doing is just JFC-ifying the Pteranodon. With that statement, Jesus. Is this supposed to get the kids riled?
They're the perfect example of how it wasn't just the mouths of the dinosaurs you had to watch out for, because many had other features that were just as dangerous.
As you can see here, those designs are not the most accurate, but you get the idea.
Number 1. Dimorphodon macronix.
Once again, not a dinosaur. Seriously, man?
The Dimorphodon macronix was a species of pterosaur that lived across what is now Europe, and virtually all specimens of this species have been found in the so-called Jurassic coast of the UK.
Okay, Dimorphodon is okay. The statement you said over here is fine. Once again.
Their name means two-form tooth, which is in reference to the fact that they had two distinctly different types of teeth in their mouths, ones that were designed to tear flesh and others that were designed to grab tightly onto prey.
The model of the left feels AI generated, but I don't really think it is actually AI generated, given that this video was still made in like 2021 or so. I kind of forgot.
They were fairly primitive, with only a small cavity for their brains, and would have stood about 3 feet.
3 feet. Have you forgotten about the decimal point?
With a 4.6-foot wingspan. Very little is known about their diet, but based on their physiology, they most likely fed on fish and other aquatic animals.
Okay, I'll leave that alone once again, but I'm going to predict that Americano's gonna say that the Dimorphodon hunted in packs to destroy larger creatures.
As well as small land animals too. It's also thought that they may have been pack hunters and would work together to hunt larger prey that could feed them and their young.
See? This is just incredibly predictable. Just so many times already.
Despite the way they look, they probably weren't very good at flying because of their large heads and large bodies in proportion to their wings. They wouldn't have been able to glide and probably only flew for short periods of time, or as quick means of escape if danger was close by. Which of these would you be most frightened of coming face to face with? And do you think you could take on any of them? Make sure to let us know in the comments section. Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on the screen right now. See you next time.
Man, this is just the epitome of every single terrible paleontology video just smashed into one. Man. I'm kind of glad I revisited this paleontology video because I forgot how terrible it was. And it's just completely insane. Should I remake it to be just have a more less clickbait title featuring the same creatures, and I don't really know at this point. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all next time.